teacher of gods and human beings, be endowed transcendent destroyer, glorious upon earth, be subdued from the Shakya clan. I prostrate thy God and sing great refuge to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond control destroyer, perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in conduct, Siddhartha, Lord of the world, supreme master, needs to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, be viewed and completed, fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the glorious perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Siddhartha, knower of the world, supreme guardian of living beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, be viewed and completed, fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge when those supreme amongst humans, the Lord of this earth, he paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. Each of you will abide then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, force of pure, restoration and golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, all to you I prostrate. With the supreme science face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, 3 worlds are not, in compared divine song, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a master ocean, to you, one God justness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime path, wisdom that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated, all one track path to liberation, the holy field qualified with renunciation, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 every devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual liberation, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the faults and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness and death. To page 15 for the Heart of Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate for the thus did I hear at one time that that God was hurled from the Sabultus mountain in rush of Rio, together with the great community of monks and the great community of bodhisattvas. At that time the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration of the Abhyasa perfection. Also at that time the Bodhisattva Mahasatha looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those high perfect also implemented in nature. Then, Narada, the venerable Shariputra, said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasatha, Yeshua, how should there be some ability to train the wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasatha, Arihant, said this to the venerable Shariputra. Shariputra any son of the lineage or lord of the lineage, who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom, should look upon it like this. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, understanding, consciousness are empty. Shariputra likewise form and form are emptiness. Without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not produced. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no consciousness. no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no form. There is no I element, and so on, up to including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and harm. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice a profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. To page 25 for the short mandala. Sonje Shodan Soji Shonan Chanjo Bado Dane Jason Tage Chujin Jibe Sonam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Do Sonje Shodan Soji Shonan Chanjo Bado Dane Jason Tage Chujin Jibe Sonam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Sonje Shodan Soji Shonan Chanjo Bado Dane Jason Tage Chujin Jibe Sonam Ji Dola Penje Sanje Onge de Zenye Zave Dao Danje Pame Chire Tembe Shune Denze Kodam De Lan Jane Lan Donye Nye Jesu De Jobe Lan Chichi Sinde Kanje Dende Chana Bemo De Zenye Lan So De So Shin De Lendo Sho Bande De La Moran Pash Tage Nyingara Bende De Jane Kode Chimbe Kone Chisonde Usondo Jengu Do De Do So Ada Anzu Kulon Kom Shikera Tiri Anzu Zinda Nye De Rani Chibu Katanda Mayimba Roa Simji Shenla Ya Pemba Roa Simji Shenla Pemba Duba Shevala Tangbo Nga Susu Sim Ya Jigda Jig Sim Shiva Du Gugudo Susu Sim Shiva Yona Ani Mi Shenla Sim Shiva Du Chogol Teji Dinge Ani Sim Shiva Du Wala Sim Shiva Du Dan Di Shegu Wala Shevala Togo Yore Teji Dinge Da Toya Diyang Rani Chibu Tunda Mayimba Ani Simji Doa Shenla Ya Jig Pendo Duya Chi Di Nyingi Yo Samba Kuno Chanju Simbi Simbaji Kundes Japcho Sra Kuno
Cultivating the correct motivation that today one will listen to a Dharma, not just for oneself, but to benefit sentient beings. And in order to benefit other beings, first one's own mind has to be peaceful, it has to be pacified. if one's own mind is not pacified, it cannot help others. So in order to pacify your own mind, first one has to know the teaching. Prior to knowing it, one has to hear it and listen to it. So please listen to it with the intention of benefiting other sentient beings. In short, one should cultivate bodhicitta.
Why, that go come what ring when I Tande to the Delia in the church, Lambring down TV in the church in Yichomadi. Tanda give us some rare down around the what to do the Deji Ravadi, cook up some variety, him by the Shiva Shen. Him by the Shena and similar Gawayung Restro, Tanda.
Madam, we should now rejoice that this time we have the fortune or opportunity to listen to Alamrim. It is fortunate, isn't it? This time, this opportunity. In that sense, rejoice in that.
Oh, yeah. That, on the Tadishig Yoro, Shendun, Tandadi, any Shendun to me, Shendun Gilo, Shenbeng Gilo, or Shen La Pendoche, Sim. Tigding on the Codevadora.
Yeah.
Inada, Laling, when a die, the Bimisi Cogoyor, on the Shendun, Kayulayogi, when a Shen, Samanamda, Pendochiela, on the Cogoyor, you mean that the Shendun to you, Lojame Rimba. That's not that you change same cigarette and Shendun to you, Lojame Rimba de la Lodi give a shidu basro, Lodi to be shidu, Lodi Jones, Lodi to be season, that de la Jujan Roji. The Dandalamrim la be, the Tablam the Yatangum ne march, Yawashi Sungudora.
So now, this benefiting intention, concern for others' welfare, that thought, supreme enlightenment thought, the words are easy, but the practice is difficult. Really, to have such an excellent practice in line with the words is difficult. But we would say cultivating bodhicitta or altruism, there is like the basis of it. Yeah. So what are the causes and conditions of it? And then how is it generated in actuality? The way it's laid out in this Lamrim is quite wonderful, clear.
Chizan delaya ni shindu tini yilo janwe rinpa delaya ni di she sang kizing simjin la sim nyomba dhuba tang ani simjin la yingwong ki namba jin dhuba sim nyomba dhuba sindi ta nganzo tanda ani shindu ki lo maliwa karasa na nganzo sim na la chadang ki lo di shuk chimbo shubji yorwa sirwa chadang ta chadang di yorwa ta nganzo susu nyi la cha ani susu ji magawa zila dangwa di 다 요요래 다 셈나라 차단디 요사디 장갈라 아니 심지 탐제를 신대의 로지해야 되다 용서고랑 요 말이다 봐 여지 여러지 최차로다
And the foundation of that altruism is firstly equanimity and then a sense of being close or having affection to all beings, loving kindness. So this first part of equanimity or impartiality, non-bias, for us, because we have attachment and aversion for sentient beings, it's very difficult for us to have the altruism towards them if we don't have that equality. Yes.
근데 초리기 로데 마가나나 아니 잠바다 닝제디 잠바 닝제 깨베 있는데 초리 연조지 차로 먼저 제가 말하면서 망버지기 다 잠바들라 지라시니 뭐 닝지 셰운데 동에서 오러지 닝지기 동에서 고요러지 먼저 천안 연구요래 닝지로 이제 수수 예용 밀라 동에로 충두네 동에들 태나서 배자와실래 자와데 제라 심나라 동해지 용되게요. 디가르스는 아주 차단다. 착과단 되어 인자. 아니 착과서야 돼 가래 되자로. 요모로 가셔서 요모기 셈디 마시버스고요. 인자 제가 아주 닝지디 착과단 되어 인자 아니 닝지 승리 상하지. 차두고요. 차두고요 말해서.
So for us to have that equanimity, because we have this mind of bias, of attached to some and then averse to others. Our minds don't have equanimity. So even though we might try to generate loving kindness, great compassion, or leave aside loving kindness, but if we look at those in our surrounds and see that they're suffering, we might generate a feeling around that for a while. We can feel what they're going through, but latterly it is not stable because our kind of affection for them is mixed with desire. So what happens is, for a while we have those feelings of compassion, but then it doesn't remain because our great compassion is mixed with the desirous attachment. And when that happens, it doesn't constitute great compassion by definition.
And the another LSMG Tamje Passion is Susulongos, Devaive, Nichik Pinjadang, Pinjak Budang, and Trobodan, Trobo Budang, Tatinde, Devay Denjo, Devayo Kanshila, Devanyo Medevache, Easy Chigilla, Devayo Kanshila, Easy Mevache, and Devayo do. 페저게 동해여와 대 신로와 어찌기절 이제메도 동해대 세마도 비체 알아도디 강에 책도 하다는 거에서 총으로나라 디 시비짓 강에도 도와로 알아서 저와지 유도니 배 강에 동해여와 대 신기요래 다 강에대 세야라네 배전 체온도 찍네 수술라 셰럽이요 말에 셰럽 단계요 말에 아니 제외 단계요 말에 아니 다 개제셔디 이제요 말다. 핀주닝가라 바 이제요 말, 주 이제요 말에 랍저로지 자가 체비네 자마요세 계제디 셰마요세 지도디 제마요세로 야페 동인이 연구요래 저는 로고치도야 강에 쉬우지래도로 알아도 지난주다 가제라 수수 빈자 그 부부당데다 타바들 로충하러 테네자서로 주룩줍디 접제 주군이 시자란 천주어도 다 단대 내가 강에 쉬우지도 알아 강에디 요원이 통구도 다 세네 투구면도 딱 가르쳐 오래라. 가르 그 지지 디제르지래도 하디. 자성으로지래도 하디.
Let's leave aside the notion of all sentient beings. Just the relatives, friends, and their children. You know, we have these connections, we are connected to them, but even in the constraint of those we are connected to, the relatives, their friends, and their children, there's oftentimes no faith between us, no trust. So you might want to say something, but you can't. You can't bear to see them suffering on the one hand, but you can't make the connection. You can see them suffering, but there's no trust upon which to say something. You try to remove others' difficulties, but you don't have the wisdom. You try to help them, but you don't have the love. And because there's no mutual trust, you want to advise them, but perhaps they would not listen. So in reality, what we see then is a lot of suffering going on that we can't do much about, particularly with teenagers, isn't it? With the young people, 10, 15, 20, 20s. We see them going through that mental concern, but we can't remove it. That's an issue, no?
다 될라 당원에 레다 다 단다디 준주게 랍자자야 레다 제스 좀 쉬월래 랍자자야 들어
Yeah.
개디주에서 연나니 이 텔라미가 지시 개디주에서 맨날 텔라미가 체지면서 다베 강에 동에도 통도 될라 수수원에 아니 지금 누가 다네 펜도 치두고도나 제로
Yeah.
다디 아니 펜도디 다 수수 누가디 당금인도 나나 표적에 수이지 매지 파이지 강에데 세두면은 될라 심데 마시스다로 디 예스 좀 쉬월래 랍자 잡다 원원도 다 컨조가지 망고 심데 치기도 심데 치기요 말했다 심데션의 펜도요 말했어.
In this sense, the verse from Shantideva in Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life is very good. If there is a problem and you can solve it, there's no reason for concern. Conversely, if you can't solve a problem, why worry? That's really good, because if we have the power to help alleviate someone's issue, we do that. We do our best. But if there's no kind of like mutual trust, even though you want to help and you can't remove it, well then what would the point in worrying be? Shantideva says, in that case, don't worry.
다치다 다 당용도야게 탑람망고지 요래로
Yeah.
이네 당어도 개지슈디 당고 수수 틸레에 미드 도바치 주면도 도바
Yeah.
도바치 되잖아라니 심날라 남도다 만에 제용도라
Yeah.
디 이처럼서 따다하고 그래라 수수 셈라지 dum러다 만에 샤용도 마장하는데 싱고 소더라
Yeah.
아니 딜레야 수수 도바시네 디 지금으로 디 지금으로 도바망 보시오지 아 도바디 제라 아니 수수 주미지 남도 담르지 딜랑감다다 아마지바다 아니 직다다 근데 연대기 여러 하셔다 디 도바치기요 말해서 다 도바치 맞아야 되네 이지구고 여러 제가 이지 지어야 될라 먼저 미망보지 표적 내다 차단 수수 시월 배전 치거든 디 시월 배전 최고 말해서 좀 된데 랍자든 디스잡도 미파적이 수수기 아니 낭미지기 수수 낭미디기 아마임바 빠와임바 나시지 삼다나 부구디기 껴다 가르쳐봐 될라 디 지금 말해서 가서 그래 콜레야 아니 수수 생 수난당 아니 디야 잡로 ngoje 망보지 ngoje 아니 제주 당거 말해서 마담 가제 부구디 강에 들래 좁야게 밤에 배전치 그러면 주지게 니 잡로 강에 가르도 백가나 가래도 밤에 파망원에 그 밤에 재워야니 되게 뒤다가 말해서 파망원에 재워야니 되 부구디 강에 세야당 부구디 매제하고 용야지 대상로 당 그러면 주지게 그 원에 수직 라야다 든들 삼당 말해서 세상 안아서 심지 담제를 삼로 든대직 당토이나 아니 당념로 레그레스디 좀 된데 녜단디 좀 된데 로주디 로 다치기 봐지 된디나 랍자 망고 든데 제구도 하시다 네 가랑 심라 수고 쉬어 좀 그러잖아 먼저 파마지기 김장들 수수 부글라 따다 나신지 수수응에 심지 신을 파다위나 수수 빈자래 당부 수수 대외연조들 수수 부근하시 딩에 부근진 천제 따위나 아디 빠워진 아디 아마진 천제 따위나 심지 탐제를 당용으로 놀려야 돼 갈래가고 인사 말했어
Gisla Dokba maybe said the doubt, right?
Yeah.
So equanimity, there are many methods to cultivate it, but to be able to have a non-biased attitude, it's very important that we don't constantly harbor these doubts about others that are close to us when we are concerned for them, because doubts can grow into conceptualizing and projecting, and when the mind tends to make these stories from these doubts and from those ideas we have about people, then we have worry, we have fears, we have anxieties, and it's difficult to get trust and faith from not knowing the situation. So Buddha Shakyamuni, I've been reading a lot of his life stories, which really helped me, and in that he says you don't actually have to know all about someone's background and situation to help them. It would be like when parents are concerned and when their children are going through suffering, the parents' first concern is not the cause and conditions behind the suffering, but just removing the suffering itself. That would be the main concern. The parents' main concern is that the child does not suffer and that their life is good. So if we can have that attitude, that when we come across other sentient beings or all sentient beings, that they are like our children, we're like a father and mother to them, our sole concern is their suffering. And if we can adopt that attitude like parents would look on their children, then the equanimity to all living beings is easier to come.
제가 네 당뇨 좀당게 탑람 면다지 닝저도 알아요.
Yeah.
제가 네 심지 신탐제 수수 파마다고 임베 삼나게라 기승한서 셰 송아셰단 데려야 아니 주딩다 주충을 남림도 동안라요나 야고요레 송사 제가 당몽은 좀 미다고 임바 삼나단도야. 안데네 겨왕아지 요데 삼나단도야. 겨왕아지 요데 심지 탐제랑 마치뇨 파치뇨 바 니시지기도 인도 단대 삼단에 레라고 차로도 응원라야 주충다 주딩게 냠내서는 또 과로 야고요나 다 도광고에서 맞이나네 이거지 과로지요네 쇼펜 펜도 연구로 하다 심지 탐제랑게 아니 파마치뇨 부구치뇨 인도 아니 수수에 당아 미자지 파워더이 나 미자지 아마더이 인텐도네 수수 저처럼서 파워 치뇨보다 아마 치뇨보다 하고 그래 수수 부글라 자와 가서 되게 유명들어 대단하시 심지 신 탐제를 때tum나 다 당념해야 돼. 다 용을 빼다가라. 레라고 쉬지 용 특별하고 싶기도. 탑라면다로 이제. 뒤중에서 당념도 대화 찍과 동네 대화 찍과 르도 시제 대금전으로 하고. 이다 용다게 송조된 대진한 거 여러 있는데 다래야. 수수 빠와 임바도 수수 되게 수수 능미지기 임바 나와 삼로 당고를 해야 돼야 믹스에게 소레야라 다 삼로 당당다 말이지 수심라 소로 녀로 질레도나네 야고 요라라
This is a really beautiful way to look at equanimity, that when you look at beings, they have been your kind father and mother, your parent. And remember, we looked at starting off with this, the foundation for this. It's important to understand the initial and medium scopes. Firstly, thinking on the impermanent nature of it, but secondly, with regards to the middle scope, the fact that there is the validity of these past lives, future lives. So in that context, the relationship between oneself and other living beings is as if they are your kind parents. Now, whilst you might not get an insight and a realization into this straight up, you at least get a feeling, oh, there's some closeness there. This being is like a father to me, like a mother to me. And those of you who are parents will know that type of feeling towards your children that comes. And, in terms of generating equanimity to all sentient beings, this is perhaps a more unusual method. The common one is just the perspective that just like you, they want to be happy, they don't want to suffer. But it's another feeling again when you see them as a kind parent, a father or mother, to get some taste of feeling. Younger, dushi. I get it. Yeah. So there are three different types of equanimity. There's like an equanimity of discrimination, and then that of feelings, isn't there? Neutral feelings. But this third one is immeasurable equanimity. Right. So that notion then of equanimity being immeasurable is because the focal object is sentient beings without limit. It's not like you're saying equanimity for this one but not that one. It is totally free from a biased attitude of attachment and aversion. Yeah. Last Krishna. So here what's happening is you yourself are cultivating that equanimity in your own mind that is free from being attached or aversion to those sentient beings. It is not the type that's thinking, may all beings be free from holding some close and others far. You yourself, okay? The mode of cultivating equanimity from Lamsamkapas is really wonderful. And when we look at our own minds, we might think, how could I ever generate that? My mind is together with desirous attachment and aversion. How to equalize it? Well, in reality, we have had the potential to do that so long, just that we have not recognized yet. I hope we can get some insight by meditating into it. Shall we do that? Meditate?
Wichundir Muchin, that Sungju Mongbo Na Yore, in a church Sungbe Dado Tanda de around the Deduna, Dagi Lab to the Dare, that Chin Lab said. Tendela Kona and Digro, Sungju Nambeg, and Dadi Jungi loved it, Ma, the Geji, Jordu, Jundi de Devi in Zane, de Tendegi, Dajungi Lab to the Dagi Lab to the Dede Yurt, on Uksu Town. Oh, Tende, Sugunan do, and Sugunachi, Suguma Devatan, and Chik Sugulayaji. Nisem Madibatan, Simnan Namdatan, Tokbat, that hanging a shame, so Tokbadi, Chio Mare. Tokbadan, Tenzomdan, Namdadan, Diri Sama Patenso, Uksu Diamond, to the Chinlab to the Layung Yurt, Ukpa down the den, or the Lugadong, and singing Namdatas about Tondo Yurt. And in Deji, Uktu Yungueva, the Upa Dueva, the Shiva Chije, the Kumjabshasra.
It is good to do breathing exercise, that meditation to relax, because we've thought a lot of things, we hear a lot of things, and the mind can be shaken up. So it's good to pacify it. And in that sense, we're in a place that has tremendous blessings. It has the footprints of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Churin Rinpoche. Not only that, the blessings of the Dharma really are the waves of sound, isn't it? In form, in a stream, they are the blessings. That is really the blessings of the Dharma. And so when you breathe in, one can breathe in that in the form of blessing. So on the in-breath, when you breathe in, any discomfort physically is dispelled, and any mental kind of doubt, worry, anxiety, as you breathe out, they're gone. So one gets the blessings of body and mind. And once one has settled in that, just be aware of breathing. Recognize that.
That's some nation that I'm watching. Ukran, gonna sim that. Uringa to Dampa. Uringa Dama Cadulian, similar Dama the Tingle. Young Uktungajitan, Shivache. Young Uktungajitan, similar Dama the Tingle, young Uringajitan, Shivache. Uktang Zinjigane, Sim.
Yeah.
Namdo, Tumiji, Namdo Gaidi, the Ninja Vodos, Tablandium.
There's nothing to do yet to watch the breath. Initially, inhalation, exhalation, longer ones. And if you find that you still have thought, then make the breaths quicker, more shallow. And if there's still thought, go back to long ones. What you're doing is controlling your own breath so that thoughts become less. This is a good method.
다들 우크라나기 제수 수부 차단 가와도도 대따제 스테로.
Now be aware. Where does the breath go within the body? Just be aware of that.
어야. 당저 당용 있습니다. 긴다로. 제가 대단다 대송으로. 저절이야. 이 편을 체들이야. 편을 가야면 믿는데다 두고도 알랑가다. 너네. 오늘에는 점블링이 미만자 나라도 뒤에 나게다 인식으로 파메심지 인식으로 알아. 나라도 오늘 가서데 장가대 그래 누구가 알아. 오늘 수수 오늘 그 제어요데 징이 숨스 장가대 그래. 오늘 수수시 마가베 미디 컨트롤사제 미디 징이 숨스 장가대 그래. 다시 신다디 예상만 안줄 가래. 파메심지로 봐. 어딘데 기다 세델이야 지 뭐서 펜토바다 너버게와 칸 템바 메딘 저 미딘데 랑가다 총간다 이제 또 남단다 라면데 사가나 근데 통구더라 근데 칸 톰베 미딘 미치 니 섬나야 섬나단제 대내가 될라 수수심 딱 간르지도 따다 제단 대심나 아니 셈디 야 차에 말에 마 차에 말에 차단 지 가외 남바다 두배 남바 지에요 말다 발매심제질 상당히로 어디에다 디게 당용의 셈데 셈제 탐제라 삼로지 레고여다 단당하란지 요바디 시고로 어딘데 지금 저 요레스 당용의 셈지 요레스 페젠데 어디에 하고 버치더라.
Now, meditating on that mind of equanimity, the sentient beings that in this life have neither benefited you particularly nor harmed you, those that you see, for example, on the road, well, most of the beings in this world we relate to, are like that for us. They're in this category of neutral or stranger. You can probably count quite easily those that you're really close to in terms of love, 1, 2, 3, how many? And those that you have a difficulty with that you would class as enemies, 1, 2, 3, 4, how many? Not many, but the strangers in the context of this life, you have no doubts around them, the ones that you see on the road, in the shop, at the airport, whatever. And you don't have any particular attachment or hatred towards them. It doesn't make your mind go up or down either way. This is equanimity we have within us, this attitude. We can recognize that.
그래서 파메심제질라 착과다 당와 로민도 알아. 차단이가 민도 하시는데라.
So those Father, Mother, sentient beings, we don't have desirous attachment towards them. We don't have an aversive mind towards them. Neither, isn't it?
So
recognizing that within you, you have that neutral mind. Recognizing equanimity is within you is the first step.
다드네 뒤에서 셈나라. 딱 지금 달라야 된대 유난히 어디야 뭐지 딱 하실래 다스케 어머데이나 현수수지 경험에 레당 수수 시디 감담에 뭐 등인지 직sem나라 미드 통니 맞어 미드 깨지시니 맞어 근데 연구도 알아 미가시 되겠다 세들려야지 개면아야 경험에 레더 인지로 가시 직 수수 통니 맞어 깨지니 맞어 근데 연구도 아니 컨트롤 사이드 당원에 유난히 근데 다디야 셋업 안델야다지 삼노당당데 컨데지도 시시바치 디넬라직스 메데와다 마세와다 미두바다 마가오로 시우지 심나는 샤용우더로 디야 하고와체냐 시바체 무슨바체 오래라다
Now, recognizing in your mind, well, someone you have aversion towards, some people say they might not have enemies particularly, but there could be, due to past life connections in this very life, due to karma and dispositions, beings that you don't feel like seeing or talking to. That is possible, isn't it? From past lives because of things we've done. This life we don't want to see or talk to them. So that sense then of just seeing them or talking with them or meeting with them, it makes one feel upset or feel like not interacting with them. Just recognize that.
다든데기 미직라한데라 네 삼노다네 다심 가르뇨마 도르선 아다데 지 아니 미니바지바 아니 대화도 동의미도 임바지바 아니 저 망보질라야 나 대수수게 수수베 저와 치슈데서 된데 찬용여로 아니 수수라 저 망보진의 거린 친구 임바든데 삼노다 제 아니 딜레야 심 직패 당기 막아외습니다 차제네 지 방문에 지 차단선 여체면도 직벌이샤 선상 섬지 심용바지 말 소도가 치고 레스타 다도다 수수 공자르다 로
That one person that you have in your mind's eye, thinking they are human just like you, they want to be happy just like you and do not wish to suffer just like you. But also there were lives past when this person loved you and you were so close, just the only one you loved. So one can reflect on that. And as you reflect on that type of past life kindness this person has showed you, the current aversion will be reduced, and then you will think, there's no particular reason to have aversion to this person or strong attachment, and a degree of equanimity will come.
다데네 딜레 심용바 두툼나 다들라 다디 람산데 곰자딘 징닌데 두투고 말해라 딜라 삼노드네 다나 야고용고도 가르스나 도시에다 media setup chesu dune ye tenro tangeji
Okay.
수수 심나라 마데와당 통니 마데와당 지 연구도 된데 된데 리미드 수 삼다 아니 데다 금제 미 아니 미 바지와 대와도 투서 삼다 저주데 금제 삼다 투준 금제 삼다니 제나다 심나라 소화 도고 주 펜도 연구에서라 다 되면은 아니 튠 담아샤가로 디 미팅에 잠바던 제외 유인스로
알레
마네마 팅마 좀제지 랍샤디 미딩에 참바단 제외 유인스 미드 참바단 제외 유인스 팅마숨데 니마다와 라베이나
Yes.
안 둔다지스 제라 미드 통어스 통용도 둔다지기 응게 수수상다다다 둔다지기 제기 상다다 빼 켜와요디 세부 차그레 에스로디다 저는 둔다지기 나라 쳐다시다 아니 하고 그래요 이게 지세 지웅그리스는 저런서 쳐다시다 로와 니마다과르지 살숨숨숨숨 랍제르와 쇼다르시네 어딩에 참바든 제베 유인스 미딩에 민디야 민 넘버로디야 템버제로
Yep.
둔다직제라 미딩어스 투윤데 수수 디날라 수수 투윤데 초와드 칸레리기도 담노시단다 디네가 그 초와드다 둔다직은 그 초와니디 담단다 빼 멘다 수수 셈난 차나 멘다 땡데 용그레스로 다디 서다시다 하고 그래서
맞어. Test. So such in a meditation with regards to visualizing the enemy in front cannot come at once. One cannot do it just once or twice and get it. It has to be done a lot. And then you kind of like, initially you're requesting or visualizing that person in front, how they may have upset you or you're sad around them. And then you go through the reasons that they are human, just like you, and so forth. They've been kind to you. And then with those feelings, there could be some kind of change. But if that has less than an effect, it's good to think. It's good actually to say out loud 3 times that this person is the object of my loving kindness. To actually say it 3 times every day in the morning, and to try that out for 7 days, because from the first day you do it to the 7th day, you will see the difference is clear. If you were to say this 3 times every morning, one can try it out as a test. And of course, you can even say this person's name, and when you remember the name, the aspect of the person appears to you. You meditate on them, and then when you actually meet them, if you meet them a week later, definitely you will notice some change. Try it as a test.
제가다 오늘 이 베심나네 가신다 저러지 레인데 ene 밀 토버시에 되게 매우 차도 그래요.
Yeah, and because once you have a warmth and concern for that person, you have no doubt around them.
이제 다디 심디 루트스나 안데네 수수기다 디경기다 시우지 제와지세 줘라 양 딜레 착바디 파 착바디 왕기 양도 동네 시우 용데 겨와 당원에서는 당기기 밤에 심제에 되다 당기기 따지 인세야 되다 당기 단다 가사기 미디죠 직벌해지라 딜레야 착바전에 가신 시우 지야민도 야님은 양데 수수 녀더라오지 강해라오지 테니 양심데 마가와 차려야래샤 제산다고 펜 도구도 내외 제기도 제산다 정말 직벌해샤 펜 도는 돈념래샤 내가 제는 제념래샤 제산단다디 근데 명아두 당연히 심전남제랑 마친용 버심바스 베제카샤나라 땅용 당거 요 말에 이제 남들은 단다 땅용도 도르면 베제카샤나라 땅용 마탐바시 심전남제랑 마친용 버심바스 아디 샤라 티가르잖아 다디 땅용 디가는 두두고 심전남제랑 마인바 직바 인상당인데 네 땅용 찾아도고 라데 디게 디게 되디 디 코드엔디 리기어로
Then those that you are so close to, the affectionate, the loved ones, well, the relationship that you have with them through desirous attachment can also be the cause of lots of suffering. In fact, if you look at those 3 groups, the first group of mother sentient beings that are neutral, the second that are enemies, and the third one of close loved ones are in fact all the same. Okay, for times they might have benefited you, for times they might have harmed you, but in effect, over the context of time, they're the same. And when we hear, sometimes when it's the 6 causes and 1 effect are set forth, they don't include this a foundation of equanimity, because that first point, recognizing all beings are your mother, well, once you get to that stage, you already got equanimity, isn't it? So they don't need to explicitly state it. Yes.
Jiu Chimbe Lam Rim Shing, the Jiu Ding Dang, Jiu Chung Tumu Lam Ring one the dog said. That to you, take the Nanga Chamber. Manzo that Naran Sangola Che be get a chat of Chiajan sometimes you may shirim to some Dangayamara. Shirim the Mavins and Manzo Che taught the young women do that.
Oh, okay. So and then that piece of advice where it says in the Lam Rim with regards to the three scopes, in common with initial, middle, and middling capacities. And then there's the vast scope, isn't there? That's so important because we might go for the best, like the vast scope, thinking, oh, that's famous, that's good to go for. But if you actually look at the steps, where are we?
Tanda di midagwa samudaya degi, tangyum kana samudana pe nyingjodo tanya do.
Yeah, even that thought of understanding impermanence in the context of equanimity is wonderful.
Ba nganje susu sim nga lu juwa do na shi, an susu nye da parma same ge lu juwa do yo. An ye sim juwa do yo na shi, sim je tamje sim juwa do yo.
Right. So just as one's body is undergoing change, it is the same for neutral beings, your enemies and friends. Just as your mind is undergoing change, it is exactly the same for strangers, enemies and friends. Same?
근데 sometimes 먼저 치료기 치료보다 먼저 양 베디 주어도에서는 직벌해더라. 지금에도다 지신다 저저 주어도도.
야.
너도 마 주어도도 아니 이제 제나시 나란도 류디 메도도 지신다 직벌하고 지래도 하고 직다 소 초와 요되면 지래면시 지게 주어도다는 겨웠으면 더라.
Wow. And then just looking at it in terms of compound change, these things that are changing around us, trees and flowers, they have life, they're sustained, but they're born and they die. And we are just like that.
다디 아니 대직래 다디네 니워디 저 가르쳐는 나랑 가르쳐네 네 줌제 삼단에보다 스스 아 가르쳐네 미들 거기요래와 아 가르쳐는 미대 마가와 책이요래와 수수 그 줌제 삼단하다 이제 다 만차 직벌해와 만차 수수 가와 줌제데 말 펜토고도스 말 로고치고도스 말 겹겨치고도스 말 가고치고도스 와 어딘데 인자니 가외 심디 레기도 하고 차외 심디 레기도 하고
Really, then the question is, the second reason around that is, why would you like the person so much? Or why would you not like them? Would you like them because they've benefited you, they've been helpful to you, they've supported you, they've loved you? In dependence on those things, you attach to them, desirous attachment.
다 미릭질을 마가와 가르치는 띵알라 네버당도 띵알라니 튜브제당도 띵알라 마가와 치기도 땅 가지고 많이 뱀 심제 신달레 네버지기도 나래 빈잘레 네버지기도 나 룽바지벌 네버지기도 먼저 밀레 네버지기도 서로 딘데게 차네니 미들라 네버지베 준제질라 되네 이는 먼저 마가와 심데 레기도 알아요.
Then how does the mind of aversion arise? To those that harm or those that struggle because those beings don't like me, or that one harmed my relatives, harmed my country, or more generally harmed humans. So those are the reasons behind aversion.
제가 단다 너버제니 미디야 겨와질라 양 편도체요. 봐. 겨와 상단은 단다 너버제니 미디 니마지야 배 수술을 편도 거진 치슈차야. 양 단다 수술을 거진 치무셔야 돼. 니마지 배 너버제니 차야. 근데 차기였다. 겨와 동마매베 상담이 나로. 이 상담도 안다. 펜토니 데 너버제니 데 펜도거든. 다이나 인양르샤. 니나 이념레샤 다고 지글 차고다 지글 다운 지에 게르면도 다 지글레샤상 아디다 먼저 대 대화를 타른 동러지 레메시 정말 지글에도 삼삼지 셈나라 레토메이나 되네 당용글로 다디 셈디 요나 아니 신도 셈뱅글로디 야고질레야라 라와야 되면은 다 먼저 단다 셈벨로 많이 가서는 먼저 신기 디두라 삼로 시라 단투요 말아 데려와 제가
Okay. Well, if you think on that person that is the harmer in one life, they would have been so kind to you, benefited you so much, a lot, the most in that life. So in that case, the one that is kindest to you also conversely in one life has harmed you a lot. And the question is, who is the helper and who is the harmer? If the enemy has helped in past lives and the loved one has harmed in past lives. In the context of lives with no beginning, who is helper, who is harmer, it equalizes. And it's very important to do such an analysis because without that notion of equanimity, the beneficial intention, concern for others' welfare cannot come, the bodhicitta. And the reason we don't generate concern for others is because we don't even think on them. Yes.
ngānānsu chēnā tā kēpa sāṅbū shibjī rē tuā rwa tīndē kī tā ngānānsu mā jōmbā rāng rē mā shibjī kī sūsū jōmbā yī na sēmī kī shivā thādū tuyā kī tāplāṋ chātā tōmbā jīmdē tē sūng yō rwa shirānsu tōmbā jīmdē tē kī nāmdā tō tōmbā jīmdē tē mā fē kōng lā tāplāṋ tō sū mī āmchō lō khoyā khurā yō mā rē sāngmā tō bā nēgāb kī gōm tīndē lā kō khō chē dē yō rā mī shī chī ngō nē chī shēmbēn shē nē sēm kī shidī thādū tuyā kī lām kī rīmbā tī kē tē tōmbā jīmdē tē mā fē kōng lā zambuling koran chik koran yo mare chik koran yo mare wa tomba jumden de pe sabe jina ta jumden de gading da nang anzo chik thögi chongor wa chida ale chik den de chik thögi chongwa de hajang ge geba sangbore da da tomba jumden de ma be kona chik du thöya koran yo mare da jeme ma nyam ro de mi da go jam de nyam ro de ne kanza jila ro ngara zo jido nan tenan zo hago ra pa ro na pesha da business da ane chi social 강의로 janjashé 되면서 되저게 지 신변게 셈다 근데 계제 책 배주 진님도 아시죠 나로 아 제가 세버데 디 갈래 냠바이나 야 두렵지라 다 배드 매버 찾는 방법 쉬우지래도 세상 원하는 된다 개발 방법 쉬우지래도 저직 특유 총화 삼유 총화 공유 총화데 아 이는 가고 공부해지래도라
We are so lucky because in terms of pacifying the mind, except for not studying, if we study what Shakyamuni Buddha said, we can do it. You know, and prior to Buddha coming here in this world, there was no chance to even do that before he said those words. Okay, so there might have been meditators, but there was not that teaching. So you wouldn't have even heard these words about bodhicitta. And there's also the time we're in now that is quite degenerate. Well, look at, except for us, what are most people concerned with? Money, business, and all problems around that. How many people are talking about bodhicitta, except for Dharma Center, not even hearing about bodhicitta? It would be sad if one day you didn't even hear about, if it degenerated so much that you didn't even hear about bodhicitta anymore. But how you should realize that you've had the chance to hear about it, reflect on it, meditate on it, rejoice in that.
당라서 단다 당라서는 지 나도 있는 단다 차단 반투매 유인자 다 대가는 삼로때에서 단투매 야고더라 수수 차단 여버디 좀전 가르쳤네 도세 삼다 근데 제도 다 차나 차냐르셔 다나 다냐르셔서 자고제나 자고의 유상을 해셔서 당어제나 상모 다의 유르셔 There's lolly and the same music pay music two you do. Ele 당고 draw music was two you do and the same nane. 지 당고 마데어 매버지로 당고들 엘레 마 미디 깨지시기 맹한 미디 투금에서 매버 딘데지 간에 막 고속투나 안 갈래 미래야 셈다 녀르 도야 도스 충분히나 아니 오늘 수수 메제나라 수수레 펜도 용거래 아니 수수 예용게 파마 빈자도 절레 펜도 용거로 봐 나디 베미시게 누베 첨보당 펜도 첨보 메제나라다 먼저 신변게 제심디 신이데 면나 아니 메제 신이데라 닝고면도 알아 신변 제심게 초가지 게마도 나나 아니 메제 세야 될라 거든
In the context of the following week, then it would be good to look at equanimity, to reflect on it. And I think, in my case, the opportunity to do so is there. Object is always there, isn't it? The objects of attachment are around, the objects of aversion are around, but before it gets to that level, before you meet such people, what about that attitude that doesn't want to see them or talk to them? How about reducing that? Because really, the purpose of this life is to generate the concern for others. And if one is able to have that beneficial intention, then it's going to benefit the family in your immediate surroundings, the sentient beings. The benefit is great. And that is this life's purpose. If you don't set about cultivating that in this life, then this life has no meaning.
Right, so
that's probably it for today. If there are questions, good. If not, we'll dedicate.
First, do you have questions? Okay.
Sorry, there was at the beginning you talked about 3 types of equanimity.
Yes, that's right. The first one, discrimination.
So discrimination, and then equanimity. What was the second one?
Second one was feelings. When you have positive, happy, sad, or neutral feelings. That's that middle one. The page learned the jobs are the Tanyam Giri and the Sumyor Wadi do Shaitan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, do they show?
Yeah, we'll dedicate now.
Page 31, short mandala.
Nide Gyamparati, Sangye Shinde Miteo, Chokunanda Shinla Chupasho. Abye Shin, Naga Chinle Chochu Jeva Sam, Losa Tembe Dome Sasungi, Chove Munse Tado Nigu Chi. Guru Rama Mandala Kamniriyataya.
Page 33, prayers of dedication. Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain state of Guru. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase. Rejoicing and requesting that the Buddha stay and teach, I now dedicate all this to full awakening. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble bodhisattva's deeds. May the King of Dharma, Tsongkhapa's way of Dharma practice flourish. May the limits of obstacles be pacified, and all the conducive circumstances be complete. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is the unification of emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, May all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the St. Judas moral way, who serves the bountiful bearer of all